to Pittsburgh, but now it's back to the midterms, and it's back to trying to do the best he can to hold on to the House, hold on to the Senate. For a lot of people, Republicans in particular, this is going to be maybe their second biggest day, because their biggest day was 2016. This is another chance to show people that 2016 was no fluke.
Yeah, let's bring in Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's at the White House. A very big week, busy next few days. He's going to be all over the country. I think he has 11 rallies over the yesterday and into the midterms, right? I mean, it's just crazy.
It's crazy, the ability that the president has day in, day out, not just to bring these massive crowds out, but to actually deliver, and with the amount of energy and stamina that he has and that he's shown over the last month has been incredible and unprecedented. It's amazing the amount of time and energy that he has spent helping push Republicans over the line, and I think you're going to see that fruitful, particularly when it comes to the Senate. I think that the president has done an incredible job telling the story of these first 2 years of his administration and the number of successes that he has had, and I think you're going to see that on full display next week.
And so, Sarah, we just looked at the map of the states the president is going to be visiting in the next 6 days. Are those states where the candidates are in trouble, or are those states where it's so close a visit by the president could push the Republican over the finish line?
Those are states where the president's incredibly popular and has the ability to help carry some of these individuals over the finish line. Certainly a great way to close is to have the president of the United States come in, talk about the booming economy, talk about securing the border, talk about defeating ISIS, talk about remaking the judiciary and the success that he's had as president, and how more Republicans help him get better policies in place. He has, again, a great contrast between Republicans and Democrats. You're going to see him lay that out, and I think it's going to be a huge difference maker next week.
You know, I'm just amazed at when the president brings up birthright citizenship. It was a story that Jonathan Swan had been following on Axios. So he brings it up. It becomes a big story. And to me, when you talk to constitutional attorneys like Jonathan Turley, he says this is a debate we need to have. But yet some people are interpreting this as some type of xenophobic, racist quest to change America. Are you surprised at how some are playing the president's would-be executive order?
I'm not at all surprised that the media and Democrats, which sometimes can be one and the same, would overplay their hand in the way that they're doing it, whether it's on this issue or anything else that the president brings up. This is the party of no. This is the party of obstruction. They have no ideas. They have no policies. The reason we're in this position in the first place is because Democrats have failed to come to the table. They have failed to work with this president and pass legislation that helps protect our country, that helps protect the citizens of America, because they do not want to secure our borders. They do not want to have a law and order country. The reason that we're in this predicament is because Democrats in Congress have failed to do their job, and the president's going to look at any way possible that he can find legally and constitutionally to make sure that we're doing everything we can.
Will he be able to use an executive order? I know at first he said, I thought it was an act of Congress, then I found out I could use executive order to make this to make sure that babies born here to illegals are not citizens. What are the facts here? Can he use executive order, or does he have to go through Congress?
There are a number of legal scholars who certainly think he can, but again, let's not forget why we're in this place and why we're even here at all, and that's because of the failure of Congress, Democrats in Congress, to actually do their job. And again, the president is going to take whatever powers he has to protect our borders and to protect our country.
Okay, so Congress has not been close on doing anything, but Sarah, you remember it was a number of months back where the president and Chuck Schumer, it sounded like they came real close to a deal where Chuck said, you know what, I'll give you the money for the wall, Mr. President, I just want the Dreamers to be able to stay here in the United States. And the president, it's, you know, according to the stories we've heard, said, you know what, I think I can get more. No. Was that a mistake not to take that deal at that point?
The president laid out, we need more than just one piece of the puzzle. The president wants to see a total reform take place. We have massive loopholes in our immigration system that we have to close, or we're just going to continue kicking the can down the road. The president's not somebody who wants to just keep passing the buck here. He wants to solve the problem. That's why he was elected, and that's why he's going to continue fighting to make sure he gets the job done.
What could you tell us about the communications with Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, many of which citizens make up the caravan, and there's word now a third caravan is mobilizing this direction. Has there been some work talking to these leaders, along with trying to putting 5,200 troops on the border?
Certainly, we are in constant communication with other countries. Mexico has stepped up in an unprecedented way. We want to continue to be able to work with them. Hopefully, they'll continue
Sarah, how
to
have they
put
stepped
pressure
up? Everybody
on
got
these
through.
caravans.
But how have they stepped up? What did they do?
They have helped stop a lot of the transportation means of these individuals in these caravans, forcing them walking. They have helped us in new ways to slow this down, to break this up, and keep it from moving as aggressively towards the United States. Again, they can do more, but at the end of the day, the president is going to secure our border, and he's not going to let people that we don't know who they are, why they're coming, or what they're coming for into our country. There is a legal system, and we want people to come into this country, but we want them to do it in a legal way and in the process that exists. And we certainly want to fix that process so that it works better, so that more people can come here legally once they've gone through the system. But Democrats refuse to help us on that, and until they do, the president is going to do what it takes to secure our border.
The president said he was going to cut off aid to some of those countries that weren't cooperating or not stopping their citizens from working their way up to the United States. Has that happened?
Again, the president's looking at all options at his disposal to put not just influence on these countries, but also to break up these caravans and stop these people from illegally entering our country.
You know, over the last week, Sarah, we've had the news of the guy down in Florida who was sending out the bomb to prominent Democrats and over to CNN as well. And there was the horrible mass murder at the synagogue in Pennsylvania. There has been and since then, there have been a lot of people on television and elsewhere accusing the president of inflaming, raising the temperature, the political temperature, by his rhetoric. And I know you've been asked that question. What do you tell people who say the president is somewhat responsible for the tone of the political dialogue in the country right now?
Look, the only people that are responsible for these heinous acts are the people who carried them out. One of the things that we saw yesterday was the strength of our country. The community that we were in, that the president visited yesterday, of Pittsburgh, says far more about the United States of America than the two cowards that acted so outrageously over the last week. We saw that in the rabbi. We saw that in the bravery of the law enforcement. And we saw that in the strength of the community that came together. Yeah. That's who America is. We won't be defined by these two cowards, and we certainly won't have that blame placed on anyone other than those individuals.
And Sarah, can I just ask you a question about the synagogue survivors? I think the president met one yesterday and also talked with the widow of somebody who was murdered. Would it be okay if you told us what she told the president?
He did. He spent about an hour at the hospital with the widow of Dr. Godfrey yesterday, late evening yesterday. Congressman Rothfuss from Pennsylvania was with the president as well during that time. And she said that she wanted to be there in order to show him that people wanted him there. He spent a good bit of time with her and said he was very humbled and very saddened by the experience that he had yesterday in Pittsburgh.
When you look at the number of positive Republican stories, they're under 20%. With the Democratic stories, they're over 50%. According to an MRC study, the president famously has got 92% of the stories are negative to him. You're the press secretary. You see and you hear a lot of that. Do you believe that the networks are mobilized to stop the president and to stop the Republicans?
I certainly hope not, because that's not what our country is about. But I think ultimately when people go to the ballot box, they have a very clear decision. They can either vote for lower taxes, they can vote for secure borders, they can vote for the defeat of ISIS, they can vote for a president who stands for something and for a party who stands for something, or they can vote for open borders, they can vote for higher taxes, and they can vote for activist judges. There has never been a clearer stark contrast between two different groups of people, and the president is going to make that case, and you're going to see him do that over the next couple of days leading up until Tuesday. I don't think there's any better messenger for Republicans than this president, who's had an incredible success story, and I think you expect that to be on full display, and I think it'll turn out well on Tuesday.
All right, Sarah. Well, I hope you're wearing tennis shoes because you're going to be running between now and next Wednesday.
I'll keep that in mind. I need that
Sarah.
for chasing my kids for trick-or-treating tonight as well.
Good luck tonight with that. All right.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some more headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning. Following a number of stories, starting with a Fox News alert. Brand new, heartbreaking video showing a passenger's final moments before his plane crashed into the sea. His wife says he sent her the clip before boarding the doomed flight in Indonesia. Military officials now say they've detected pings from the crashed Boeing jet's black box in the Java Sea. They're hoping that flight data recorder will help them figure out what went wrong right after takeoff. All 189 passengers are presumed dead. That plane had only been in service since August. The package bomb suspect had been planning his attacks for months. Brand new court documents revealing the chilling plot started back in July. The DOJ making the discovery after finding the victims' addresses on Cesar Sayoc's laptop. Sayoc did not enter a plea during his first court appearance on Monday. An ex-mafia hitman serving a life sentence, reportedly a suspect in the beating death of mobster Whitey Bulger. That's according to the Boston Globe. The families of his victims now reacting to his death.
I was overwhelmed with joy. I was very pleased to hear that he was dead. Of course I hope he suffered. My family's been suffering for over 36 years.
I just want to get a bottle of champagne and pop that cork. You die the way you live.
Michael Donahue's family speaking out long after Bulger shot him to death. Let's look at your headlines. I'll send it back to you.
What a story that is.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Jillian.
All right, thanks, Jillian. 13 minutes after the hour. The migrant caravans are on the move once again, and more troops are heading to the border. We're going live to Mexico next.
Back with the Fox News alert. A third migrant caravan now apparently joining the march toward the U.S. border.
The Pentagon is in Oaxaca, Mexico, with more. William?
Well, Ainsley, the caravan is not walking today. They are requesting buses to go to Mexico City. So they're going to stay here another day, slowing down, obviously. They say they want safe and dignified travel to Mexico City. Basically for safety reasons. That's because the next stretch of road, about the next 100 miles, it is single lane in some cases. It is winding. There are blind curves. And for the safety of the caravan as well as motorists, they think those buses are the best solution. Also, there was an election last night here. 3 men and 3 women were elected to represent the interests of the caravan. As you know, until now, this U.S. organization, Open Borders, Sin Fronteras, has been representing them, so to speak. Maybe they don't have their best interests at heart. Well, now there are 6 representatives from the caravan who will now speak with government officials about potentially staying here in Mexico and the terms of that, or transportation to the U.S. border. Also, as I said, it's slowing down, but it's also shrinking. Now probably under 5,000. Police gave me a number yesterday of inside this abandoned railway station where they are right now, about 4,000. Many are sleeping outside as well, so let's say under 5 right now. Some people are dropping out. It's going too slow. I spoke to several people yesterday, about 20, who said, listen, we just, this isn't working for us, going too slow, got to go home, got to make money. Also, there are medical issues, swollen glands, inflamed muscles, sinus issues, ankles, knees, blisters, obviously. People don't have the proper shoes for that kind of a walk, so they're dropping out as well. There was a rally here last night, several hours. They actually played the movie Coco, but there was no mention of President Trump or efforts by the U.S. to secure the border in terms of bringing the military, 5,000 soldiers, as well as changes in asylum laws potentially, and putting up shelters along the tents, if you will, along the border that people could be detained indefinitely. No mention of that. So these people are generally uninformed about what they face when they reach the U.S. border. And if it wasn't for the generosity of Mexican people, this caravan would be dead in the water because basically they're depending on food and water to sustain themselves. And right now, going forward, we're not sure. Back to you.
All right, William Lajeunesse down in Mexico with the very latest. Thank you very much.
Thanks, William.
All right, meanwhile, some on the political left keep blaming President Trump for violence in our nation, but our next guest says politicizing the attacks won't have any effect on the midterms. Michael Goodwin's going to explain that next.
Plus, Barbara Streisand is still here after threatening to move to Canada if the president won, if President Trump won. But this morning,
some on the political left and some in the media continue to blame the president for the recent acts of violence in our country. Take a look at this.
At the center, an unapologetically incendiary president.
It's hard not to look at it and see that it is connected. We've seen this rise in sort of a hot political rhetoric.
I think this president's whole modus operandi is to divide us.
But our next guest says these recent acts will probably not affect the midterms, and he writes about it in a new op-ed. Here to explain, New York Post columnist Michael Goodwin. Michael, good morning to you.
Thank you, Steve.
No impact?
Look, I think that I wrote that on Saturday, right after the synagogue massacre, and my reading of the national mood is that, yes, of course the left will try to blame it on the president, but events are moving so quickly and there are so many other issues to focus on that it's not as though the president's supporters will be peeled off and suddenly decide that, yes, we agree with CNN, he's a racist, he's the worst human being who ever lived. I think that those events were horrible, but there's so many other issues, including how well the economy is doing, including the caravan, including the Brett Kavanaugh situation. So I think we've had a lot of issues. I don't think these two will by themselves separate and determine the outcome next week.
Yeah, I was reading a column this morning by Howie Kurtz, and he said that the president's interview with Axios really sparked the kind of media reaction he wanted to remind people, hey, remember that caravan, remember immigration, which he feels is a winner for the Republicans.
Look, I think I would agree with that. I think the caravan is front and center again. It was knocked off a little bit by those horrible events, but I think it is back. I think there's still the Kavanaugh overhang for a lot of Republicans and conservatives. And I think what unites a lot of these things is the overreach on the other side. The fact that the Democrats, for example, rush to blame the president for everything. The way that the character assassination attempt on Kavanaugh. And now here on the caravan, you don't hear the Democrats talking at all about it. They have no plan. They have no alternative idea other than we don't like Trump. Trump sends the military. Trump has a plan on birthright citizenship. Democrats have no plan, so they're going silent because anything they say will be used against them.
Well, the Democratic leaders in Washington thought that a rallying cry and a winner for them would be, hey, let's talk about health care, because those darn Republicans, they tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, and now if you've got a pre-existing condition and you lose your health care, you're in big trouble.
Look, I think every campaign, Steve, comes down to who gets to define the terms of the debate. What is the election about? I think the president has put the immigration back on the front burner. Even his talk about birthright citizenship is poo-pooed, but for a lot of people, it strikes the right chord. It says, yes, there are fundamental things we have to do to secure the borders to limit illegal immigration. So I think it is a good political move. It may be substantive in the end. We don't know how Congress will deal with it.
Sure, and ultimately, the fight is over eyeballs, and as people look at the images of those now 3 caravans heading our way, and you know, because we've got these loopholes in the law,
right.
If they're going to do something about it, change the law, and that is if somebody comes to the country, steps foot into the nation, asks for a...
Just of that.
I understand, but the polling was based on just the raw number.
That's true, right, and not the Electoral College.
Right, but again, to base it on a popular vote is like deciding a football game on total yards gained. No, it's the scoreboard.
It's a different metric.
Yeah, so if you maximize what you can do in California, if George Bush maximized what he does in Texas, if you just go into your state to maximize, that's a whole new game, a whole new set of rules.
It is indeed. All right, we'll know on Tuesday night, midnight, maybe. 25 minutes now before the top of the hour, and Jillian joins us with the news out of Florida.
Out of Florida, that's right. So let's get right to this, because one of Florida's top prosecutors says the state's stand your ground law is unconstitutional. Miami-Dade State Attorney Catherine Fernandez-Rundle wants the state Supreme Court to get rid of it, since it forces self-defense cases to be tried before a judge instead of a jury. Rundle is the first state attorney to split from Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, who supports the latest version of the law. Barbra Streisand is once again considering relocating to Canada if Democrats don't win control of the House in the midterms. Streisand telling the New York Times, quote, "I've been thinking about, do I want to move to Canada? I don't know. I'm just so saddened by this thing happening to our country." The actress previously threatened to move north if President Trump won the 2016 election. So we'll see. Prosecutors nab a team accused of carrying out jewelry heists right out of a Hollywood movie.
This is the vault at the Bellagio. It's located below the Strip, beneath 200 feet of solid earth. It safeguards every dime that passes through each of the 3 casinos above it. And we're going to rob it.
Smash and grab job, huh? Slightly more complicated than that.
The feds say this man that you see on your screen led a crew of acrobats, electricians, and other experts to strike 16 times between 2006 and 2017 in New York City and Los Angeles. They got away with more than $10 million. 21st Century Fox and Fox News Executive Chairman Rupert Murdoch receiving the first ever Legends Award at the American-Australian Association dinner. The group's goal, to advance relations between Australia and the U.S. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell introducing Mr. Murdoch at the event in New York.
No challenge is too daunting for Rupert. He builds empires, and once built, he finds new frontiers to conquer.
Chairman Murdoch's father, journalist Sir Keith Murdoch, founded the organization 70 years ago after the end of World War II.
If I could end with a thought from my father, I quote, "I believe in the good purpose of life, in the beauty of the universe, in the high destiny of man. I believe in the power and the spirit and the triumph of the good in heart."
And as you can see, our very own Harris Faulkner emceed the benefit dinner. And I know, Ainsley, you said you were there, and it was just a beautiful celebration.
It was so special. It really was, because we know Rupert as just this. He's created an empire, and we're so grateful to him because he's given us all a great job and put food on our table, and loves all of us and loves this company, and pours into your lives too. But when you see him on stage and he's honoring his own father and the legacy that his father left behind, it's really cool because you realize he's just like all of us. He wants to please his parents. He wants to make his parents proud, and he made his dad proud. And I'm sure his dad was looking down on him and just saying, well done, son. Well done. You've continued to build an empire and use all the tools that I gave you. It was pretty special. It was sentimental. It was touching.
And it highlights U.S.-Australian relations, which I understand, according to our Australian correspondent, Greg Norman. He believes that our relations are strong, but they're still trying to figure out Donald Trump. Maybe he should visit Australia.
Right.
And
I just wanted to go table to table and hear all the accents. The Australian accent's so beautiful,
and
but it is
and they want to hear yours.
So congratulations to
Great
the boss.
organization, yes.
In the meantime, it is Trick or Treat Day, and Janice joins us from outside.
Wait, everybody. Come on over here. Where are you from? Hurry, hurry, hurry. What's your names? Where are you from?
Bernadette and John.
Peachtree City, Georgia.
All right, Georgia. Come on over here. You have an anniversary, right? How long have you been married for?
36 years.
Where are you from?
Ohio. He's from Ohio. I'm from Indiana.
Very nice. What's the secret? What's the secret?
Compromise.
Compromise and watching Fox and Friends. And real quick, what's your name?
Lavana Hayan, Toronto.
Toronto, girlfriend. That's where I'm from. A lot of Canadians watching Fox and Friends. I like it. Let's take a look at the maps and we'll talk about our Halloween forecast. There's our trick-or-treat forecast for this evening. So the rain is going to be across the Ohio River Valley, the interior Northeast. Along the coast, we are going to be dealing the maps and we'll talk about our Halloween forecast. There's our trick-or-treat forecast for this evening. So the rain is going to be across the Ohio River Valley, the interior Northeast. Along the coast, we are going to be dealing with fantastic conditions. Gulf Coast, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, you could be dealing with some severe storms. And look, that snow is wrapping up across the Rockies, but still, I think a lot of costumes are going to have some snowsuits on top or underneath. There's your future radar showers, thunderstorms as that goes across the Mississippi River. Your local forecast. All right, I want you to stay indoors if you have to, and I'm sure your parents will give you some candy. I would. I will. There's your forecast precipitation. All right, wave to everybody. Oh, you know what? Real quick. So why did you guys fall in love?
Because she looks like Janice Dean.
That's amazing.
He says I'm kissing Janice Dean.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Very nice.
That's
a new one.
That's great.
All right.
He pictures you when he kisses his wife. All right.
All right, JD.
Same people.
All right, Janice is...
A moment of silence.
Marsha Blackburn is a white
Welcome back to some quick headlines. Google accused of trying to censor Congressman Marsha Blackburn's campaign ads, saying they show, quote, shocking content. The Daily Caller reporting Google ads not approving her campaign videos showing protesters interrupting her moment of silence for Pittsburgh synagogue victims. And Taylor Swift announcing she voted for Blackburn's Democratic opponent, Phil Bredesen, in Tennessee's Senate race. The pop star writing on Instagram, quote, these two Tennessee women voted for the candidate who has proven himself to be reasonable and trustworthy. We want leadership, not fear-based extremism. Swift appearing to refer to Blackburn, who she bashed on Instagram earlier this month. Ainsley?
All right, thank you so much. With 6 days until the midterms, immigration, one of the hottest topics in our country right now, including the migrant caravans that are making their way up to our southern border.
Our next guest helped draft the president's immigration policy and says this is just the left's next stage of their open border policy.
And Kansas Secretary of State and candidate for governor, Chris Kobach, joins us right now. Chris, first off, what the president's doing is not new to you. Did you ever think we'd get to the point where 5,000 military members would be sent to the border?
You know, we've sent the National Guard and the military to the border before, but to send them in advance of these massive caravans, no, I didn't think we'd get to the point where illegal aliens entering our country would be coming in groups of 5,000, 7,000 with the media in tow. Normally, in the past, we've seen small groups sneaking in the dead of night. This group is coming in broad daylight, demanding entry to the United States.
What about the president suggesting in an interview with Axios that he would, through executive order, end birthright citizenship as we know it?
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about birthright citizenship. There are many people who are under the misimpression that the 14th Amendment commands it. It doesn't. The 14th Amendment doesn't say all persons born in the United States are citizens thereof, are citizens of the United States. It says all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. And what that meant, according to the framers of the 14th Amendment in 1866, is that if you're here temporarily, if you're a foreign diplomat, if you're a foreign visitor, you don't become a citizen if you have a child, or that child doesn't become a citizen. Same thing with a foreign army. If someone has a child, that person doesn't become a citizen. And so obviously illegal aliens and temporary visitors aren't citizens of the United States by birth here, or don't have to be under the 14th Amendment. So either Congress could change it, or the way our statute's currently drafted, the president could do it through a regulation.
Mr. Secretary, I know you want to be the next governor of the great state of Kansas. Emerson College has a poll out right now. You are neck and neck with your opponent. You're at 44% and Laura Kelly at 43%. So if you have people watching right now and they're still on the fence, what would you like to say to try to win this election?
I would say look at the issue we're talking about right now, the caravan. One of the reasons that we see such mass immigration into the United States is because many states are rewarding illegal aliens with welfare benefits, and Kansas, unfortunately, is one of them. We give in-state tuition benefits, we give other welfare benefits, we also have sanctuary counties, and my opponent has voted for all three of those things. Right. I obviously am going to get rid of all three of those things. So this is a decisive issue in our race here.
Chris, I'm from Kansas. Donald Trump won the state by 20. Why is it so close?
You know, I think you may remember, Steve, we have a history in Kansas for the past 50 years of alternating between Republican and Democrat governor administrations. So even though our presidential totals are always very strong in the Republican column, our governor's races have always been very close.
They have indeed. By the way, we did reach out to Laura Kelly's campaign. She declined to appear on the program.
We'd love to talk to her, though, so she's always welcome. Thanks so much. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Chris Kobach wants to be the next governor of Kansas. Meanwhile, 11 minutes before the top of the hour.
Coming up next, it's a Fox and Friends tradition. Stick around for the most adorable Halloween parade that you've ever seen. Aren't they cute?
But first, here's Bill Hemmer.
Hey guys, what's happening? Boo.
Stop it.
Lots of babies in our green room.
See you in a moment. I can sense that. Morning to you guys. In 6 days, can you feel it? What races matter? What's the president's travel strategy? You can figure a lot of this out, so we got all the angles covered on that. Martha McSally in a tight race in Arizona. She will make her case here live in a moment. Is California the decider in the House? Great.